This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
When you think of a great philosopher, you probably picture someone who built this huge, complex system of thought, right? But today, we're going to look at a thinker who did the exact opposite. We're talking about Henri Bergson, whose philosophy was less like a grand theory and more like a perfectly timed joke.
I mean, what if the whole goal of philosophy wasn't to build yet another rigid box to understand the world, but to find a way to gently, maybe even comically, dismantle the ones we already have? Not to give us new rules, but a moment of release. This was the really curious project of Henri Bergson.
And right away, that leads us to this central mystery. See, Bergson was a superstar in his time. I mean, a genuine intellectual celebrity. But unlike Marx or Freud or Sartre, he didn't leave behind any Bergsonians. There's no movement, no method you can follow. It's almost like he just vanished from the philosophical map. So why?
To solve this little puzzle, let's just start by looking at how strange his legacy really is.
Seriously, think about it. Most big thinkers, they create schools of thought that last for generations. Their ideas get debated and expanded on and put in textbooks. But Bergson's incredible fame, it just didn't translate into that kind of formal institutional legacy. It's a real head-scratcher. And the answer, well, it tells you everything you need to know about his unique way of thinking.
To really get Bergson, you have to understand what he was reacting against. His entire philosophy, really, it comes from this single, powerful feeling of discomfort with the modern world.
Bergson was living at the peak of the industrial age. It was a world that was being taken over by the factory clock, by scientific management, and by huge philosophical systems like Hegel's that tried to explain everything as part of some grand logical plan. And for Bergson, all of this, it just felt suffocating.
He even gave this feeling a name, post facto necessity. You know what this is. It's that tendency to look back at the past and say, well, of course it happened that way. It was inevitable. This way of thinking just freezes life. It makes it feel like a movie that's already been filmed, and it kills that feeling of real, genuine possibility in the moment.
So for Bergson, freedom wasn't some complicated political theory. Nope, it was way simpler and way more profound. It was just a raw, immediate feeling. The feeling that right here, right now, multiple futures are still possible. It was his rebellion against the tyranny of the inevitable.
Now, this idea might sound a bit abstract, but it found its perfect expression not in some dense philosophy book, but up on the silent screen. In a funny way, Bergson's philosophy has a twin, and its name is Charlie Chaplin.
Just think of Chaplin getting literally caught in the gears of a giant machine. The comedy, the reason we laugh, is that clash between a living, unpredictable human body and the rigid, repetitive motion of the factory. This is Bergson's point in a nutshell. And notice, Chaplin doesn't get angry. He makes us laugh at how absurd it all is. This is classic French esprit, that witty, satirical jab that shows how stiff a system is by making it look ridiculous.
And this light, satirical approach, well, it puts Bergson in stark contrast with the other major philosophical mood of his time, which was brewing right next door in Germany. So you've got these two totally different philosophical vibes going on. On one side, you have Bergson's France, still buzzing with the creative energy of the Belle Epoque, a world of wit and lightness. And on the other side, you have Germany, reeling from World War I and the collapse of all its old certainties. Over there, philosophers like Heidegger were retreating inward, focusing on these really heavy concepts like anxiety, dread, and the sheer weight of existence. So while German thought was digging deeper and deeper into the gravity of a world that felt like it had lost its meaning, Bergson's philosophy was doing the complete opposite. It was finding ways to get lighter, to sort of dance around the crushing weight of systems and seriousness. It was a philosophy for a world that could still, afford to laugh.
Now look, Bergson wasn't the only one pushing back against these rigid systems. You've also got Friedrich Nietzsche, of course. But their methods, totally different. As you can see here, Nietzsche, well, he took a hammer to the foundations of philosophy. His whole approach was combative, destructive. Bergson, on the other hand, didn't try to destroy the system, he just sort of quietly shifted the rules of the game, pointing out how absurd it all was with a satirical smile.
So, all of this brings us right back to our central mystery. And the answer, it turns out, lies in seeing Bergson's work not as a system at all, but as something else entirely.
Okay, so let's finally answer it. Why did this brilliant, famous thinker leave no school of thought? Why can't you be a Bergsonian in the same way you can be a Marxist?
The reason is that his philosophy was never meant to be a system.
It's much better to think of it as a form of intellectual esprit, a witty insight, a clever observation. Think of it less like a textbook and more like an intellectual stand-up routine that's designed to get a very specific, immediate reaction from you.
And this is exactly why Bergson couldn't have followers. I mean, think about the logic of a joke. You can't turn a punchline into a doctrine or a manual, right? You can't mechanically reproduce it. The whole point is to give you a sudden, momentary shift in how you see things. And once you laugh, once you get it, its job is done. There's nothing left to systematize.
So you see, Bergson's lack of a school wasn't a failure at all. It was the ultimate proof that he succeeded. He created a philosophy that was designed to be unrepeatable, a personal insight that just couldn't be turned into an institution. That was the whole point.
His goal was never to build some new system to replace the old ones. It was much more subtle than that. It was to offer a moment of relief, a brief pause. His work is like a little tap on your shoulder, a whisper that just asks, hey, does all this really have to be this serious?
In a world that was suffocating on the logic of factories and clocks and grand historical plans, Bergson's philosophy was just a breath of fresh air. It was a small act of intellectual rebellion, giving people permission to feel free and spontaneous and alive again.
And that leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Today, we might not be ruled by factory clocks, but we are absolutely surrounded by algorithms and data models and predictive systems that are constantly trying to tell us what's necessary and what's inevitable. In a world like this one, maybe a philosophy that doesn't offer more answers, but simply helps us laugh at the system, is exactly what we need.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.